go ahead and get started here. Ready? All right, good afternoon. I'm Lauren Surley. I'm the Director of Communications and IGR for the City of San Marcos. In just a moment, I'm going to pass it over to San Marcos Police Chief Stan Standridge, who's going to provide us with an update on what happened over the weekend, and then we will take questions from media shortly after that. So right now, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Chief Standridge.
My name is Stan Standridge, and I serve as the police chief in San Marcos, Texas. The purpose of this press conference is to update our community on an ongoing investigation that resulted in 2 people dying. All information that I provide will be preliminary and subject to change as new information is, is learned through the investigative process. On July 19th at 1:31 a.m., police received a call in which a person was reportedly stabbed. The location given was a bar on the square in downtown San Marcos. Multiple callers then began reporting screaming, conflicting information about someone being stabbed in the head, and others saying there had been a shooting. At 1:33 a.m., which is less than 3 minutes after the calls were received, a police sergeant arrived on scene and reported that 2 persons had been shot. A fire marshal with the San Marcos Fire Department also arrived at 1:33 a.m. and provided visual initial patient triage. Descriptions of possible suspects were provided to Dispatch 911, and within several minutes, officers detained 4 persons who matched those descriptions. Engine 1 of the San Marcos Fire Department was directed at 1:41 to meet at the corner of San Antonio and Guadalupe Street to begin triaging the scene at the request of the fire marshal, who was already on scene. They arrived at 1:41 a.m. and began further triage and treatment of the patients. 2 victims were determined to have been shot. Both were shot in the head, and initial information indicated they were shot with a handgun. 1 victim was determined to be deceased by the fire department. The second victim was suffering from a gunshot wound, had a pulse, and agonal respirations were noted. Medic 1 arrived and intended to transport this victim to Seton Hayes Hospital in Kyle, as it is a trauma center. However, the victim stopped breathing, so they diverted to Christus Santa Rosa in San Marcos. At 2:17 a.m., police were notified by staff at Christus Santa Rosa that the second victim had died. People also learned of a 3rd victim. This victim was walking along East San Antonio Street with a family member when he was reportedly grazed by a bullet, which struck his right foot. He was taken to Christus Santa Rosa by a family member and treated. He was released a few hours later. Fire Chief Les Stevens and EMS Chief Jill Rosales accompany me today and are available to speak to any questions related to injuries and/or transport. Today I am thankful to report that the alleged shooter is in custody for 2 counts of capital murder and 1 charge of aggravated assault. He is identified as Jeremiah Jayden, Jayden, Tobias, Tobias, born December 23rd of 2005, making him 19 years of age. The 2 victims are identified as Anthony Barrera, Barrera, age 24, and Alec, Alek, Pacheco, Pacheco, age 20. This investigation has not stopped since the 911 calls were received. Here's what we have learned. Victim Anthony Barrera was dating a known woman who was still married. The woman's husband came to the bar and confronted him. This continued outside and onto the sidewalk near the intersection of East San Antonio and Guadalupe streets. Multiple people used their cell phones to record a fist fight that began between victim Anthony Barrera and the husband, who is not charged with the crime and will not be publicly identified at this time. During this time, and for reasons that must still be investigated, a third person punched victim Anthony Barrera several times in the face. Barrera and the husband continued to fight, however. A fourth person then comes up and rips a necklace off of victim Anthony Barrera. The victim realized this happened and stopped fighting the husband and began fighting this fourth person. We have identified this fourth person and have obtained a capital murder warrant for his arrest. These two fight for a very short period of time, for what I'll estimate for less than 1 minute, whereupon yet another person gets involved and shoots a handgun. Based on video evidence, we believe this handgun had an altered trigger, thus allowing for automatic gunfire. We believe 8 rounds were discharged in a second or two, striking the 3 victims already described. Based on videos that our community members have shared with us, most persons then fled the scene. 4 people were detained several blocks away, to include the husband that I referenced. Thanks to the incredible work of our Criminal Investigations Division, the suspect was positively identified. Warrants were obtained, and 2 SWAT teams were used to execute the search and arrest warrants. The Hays County SWAT team was primary on the shooter's residence, which is located in Redwood. Redwood is a neighborhood in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, ETJ, of San Marcos in Guadalupe County. I want to sincerely thank Sheriff Josh Ray of Guadalupe County and his SWAT team for their direct assistance. They simultaneously searched a second residence in the same neighborhood, taking 1 into custody. We learned that our alleged shooter, Jeremiah Tobias, was alerted by neighbors that SWAT and police were approaching through the neighborhood. He fled on foot and was eventually picked up by a family member. Our crisis negotiations team contacted the family member and was able to negotiate his successful surrender at the Hays County Jail. Jeremiah Tobias, 19 years of age, was booked on the 2 counts of capital murder and 1 charge of aggravated assault. His bond is set at $1,650,000. He had already been out on bond for an unlawful carrying of a weapon charge and possession of a controlled substance, having been released on July 5th of 2025. A second arrest was made last night in relation to a previous aggravated robbery that occurred 2 weeks prior to this shooting. A 16-year-old was apprehended by one of the SWAT teams after he was found inside one of the residences. We need our community's help in locating our second capital murder suspect. He is identified as Avery Saul Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N, born January 16th, 2006, making him 19 years of age. This is a picture of him, and we are asking for anyone with information as to his whereabouts to call the police department at our non-emergency number, which is 512-753-2108. Again, Avery Saul Bowman is currently wanted for capital murder, and we are asking for our community's assistance in finding him and safely taking him into custody. Additionally, we need the community's assistance in identifying this witness. We believe this witness filmed the fight that had occurred and possibly the shooting. We need that video evidence. So we are appealing to our community to get us into contact with this witness. Again, our community can call the non-emergency number at 512-753-2108. Please note that we have already received and reviewed all of the videos that are posted in social media circles. Thank you for sending those to us. I can assure you that we have seen and reviewed all of those. We certainly want this witness's video. As of yet, he's not been identified, so if you know who he is not in trouble. He is a witness. I want to reinforce that. We just want to see what he saw through his cell phone. So please help us. As I couched at the beginning, this investigation is ongoing. We have already seized numerous firearms, and it is our hope to safely apprehend 19-year-old Avery Bowman Jr. The police department worked closely with the Hays County District Attorney's Office throughout this investigation. And as said before, I'm joined by our fire and EMS chiefs. Do you have any questions for any of us? Yes, ma'am.
Isabella with KVU. I know you kind of touched on the circumstances, but just so I'm kind of clear, did Tobias and then the other suspect that you're looking for, did they know these other men that were involved, or what was it? Did they just, was it random? What was kind of the motive there?
The question posed, if I can repeat that question, was there any connection, was there any relationship between the two suspects who are wanted for capital murder and the victims in this case? To our knowledge, and again, this is very preliminary information, there is no familial relationship. I think they may be known to each other. They certainly were not together before this event. So the fight occurs, and for whatever reason, our suspects decided to get involved in a very violent manner.
And did, just so I have it clear, did it's not, they might have known the other two men that were in the fight, the two suspects, but it's just not clear why they got involved with the two men that were fighting.
She said, just to make it clear, they might have known the victims, but we're not certain as to why they elected to get involved in this fight. I can answer the second question with an affirmative. We have no idea why they ultimately elected to get involved in the fight. Clearly, theft was a portion of that robbery. I alleged the stolen necklace as it relates to, we do have early information to suggest that the suspects obviously know each other. And so there's a relationship there. So in the days and weeks to follow, we will try to answer the question as to why they intervened in this fight.
So of the two victims in the fight, one of the victims was the gentleman who was being attacked in the fight. Who is the other victim? Was he a spectator or was he an assailant?
The question posed is, of the two victims, to reinforce, was one of them the original person involved in the fight? Yes. The first victim we believe to have been shot was the boyfriend, and just to clarify, he was not shot by the husband. The suspect is not the husband. The suspect is Jeremiah Tobias. He's already been arrested for the capital murder. So yes, the first victim was in fact the boyfriend who was involved in the initial fist fight. The second victim, we believe, was actually known to the shooter and possibly even a distant family member. So I suspect that the second victim was a bystander and that the shooter, because of the automatic gunfire, ended up killing a family member. Yes, ma'am.
So to be clear, the person you already have in custody, Jeremiah, is the shooter. What did Avery Saul Bowman do to get capital murder again?
All right, so I want to be really specific because you all have a job to make sure your viewers are fully understanding as it relates to capital murder. So capital murder has a couple of provisions that would qualify as this offense. First and foremost, a capital murder is committed in the course of committing or attempting to commit kidnapping, burglary, robbery, and that's where we landed. Because the second suspect, who, remember, is associated with the primary shooter, because the suspect reaches into this fight and steals the necklace, that is a robbery in the commission of what turned out to be the murder of two people. That's what qualifies it as capital murder. Also for your viewers, the second provision of capital murder states when murders of more than one person occur in a single incident. That too qualifies as capital murder. Your viewers will want to know that capital murders are a capital felony punishable by one of two options: life without parole or the death penalty. What other questions do you have?
My last question is, just can we get the slides back up of the unknown witness? And then-
Unknown witness, yes?
And we'll also send that out to you guys, so you'll have digital file.
Any other questions for myself or the chiefs?
Was Bowman and Tobias, were they associates?
Yes, Bowman and Tobias were associates.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And what bar did this happen at?
It actually occurred outside of a bar and probably 40 yards away down the street. So I don't want to associate it with a specific bar because it actually occurred on a sidewalk near an intersection.
So did the fight start inside the bar and then it escalated outside, or where did the fight start?
The question is, did the fight actually start inside the bar? I'm sure my investigative staff know. I know that the initial altercation, or at least confrontation, would be a better word, occurs inside the bar. I don't know if there was actually any fist fight inside the bar. My investigative staff likely have that answer. I do not. What I do know is both men ultimately come outside, and that's where they begin a physical fist fight, which, as many of you have seen, was recorded by multiple onlookers. Yes, ma'am.
I guess just to talk about the imperativeness of gaining that video evidence and having the community identify and help you connect the imperativeness of that.
The question was, can I comment on the imperativeness of us identifying the witness and subsequently asking for the video? We already have a lot of video, as we've already alluded to, but in watching some of those videos, you can clearly see that this unknown witness was at a great position of advantage to have filmed everything associated with the initial fights, probably the robbery, and then the shooting. So it is of paramount importance that we can identify him. I want to reassure our community, family, loved ones, friends, he is not in trouble. He is a witness. We're going to treat him exactly as a witness. So please come forward. Let us review the video that's on your phone because it will be instrumental to this investigation. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Chief. If y'all have any further questions, then y'all can email us at communicationsinfo@sanmarcostx.gov.